To be honest, I feel like I have half the right to make this episode. As a woman, I understand the anger, I feel it, and I want to translate that into words. Not being a doctor, I feel unequipped to talk about everything that systemically went wrong, is going wrong, that society, the medical community, the non medical community, administrators have failed to protect a person that needed it by virtue of their identity and gender. By not talking about this before I was called out by a dear friend in the medical community itself, I feel chastised that I didn't think it was a part of my battle to fight too. And this goes not just for me as a woman, but to each and every one of you, man, woman, young, old, whoever you are. The world is on fire, destruction is everywhere. Don't let that desensitize you from what's going on in our country. Don't scroll up, don't ignore me, don't ignore the hundreds of doctors and nurses and administrators screaming at you to care. Please care. Before I go on further about the systemic issue of a woman's safety in her workplace, I want to talk about the specific crime that has led to so many eyes opening. On August 9th, a female trainee doctor, 31 years old and whose identity is not disclosed, was found dead in a seminar hall of the RG Kar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata. Post autopsy, it was revealed that she had been raped and murdered, with brutal acts of violence preceding both. The seminar hall that she was found in did not have any CCTV cameras, and the perpetrator was not identified immediately. He was later then identified to be a civic volunteer at the hospital, aiding patients and their relatives in the premises itself. We later came to know that there was CCTV footage of the perpetrator leaving the hospital premises around the estimated time of death of the victim. He is presumed to have been intoxicated and was also found to contain blood on his shoes upon arrest. I will not be taking the name of the perpetrator for one reason only: monsters like these do not deserve the notoriety. As investigation into the crime has progressed, there have been a multitude of things happening around it. There have been protests by the medical community at the RG Kar Medical College and across hospitals in India. All services, including emergencies at this hospital, were halted due to the protests, prompting reactions from the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, who seemed to give an ultimatum to the Kolkata police to find the culprit within a week. The principal of the medical college has also resigned after this incident, though there have been multiple claims of financial mismanagement and poor infrastructure and services preceding both. He was also immediately appointed to the Calcutta Medical College and Hospital after his resignation as principal, prompting further well-deserved outrage. The investigation is still ongoing, as are protests for swift justice. But why is it that we care about our doctors, nurses, and medical professionals only when something truly this heinous is happening to them? A crime of this magnitude doesn't just happen due to happenstance. It happens because of a motive that is known only to the perpetrator, but more importantly for us, an opportunity that was available due to systemic shortcomings in our care for the victims. Why is it that we care about an incident such as this only after it happens? Rape is not new. Murder is not new. Violence against medical professionals is especially not new. Since 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world, we have seen an increasing number of atrocities and violence meted out against our medical professionals by disgruntled patients and their families. Professionals that have tried their best to save as many lives as possible but couldn't battle a pandemic at that scale with the poor infrastructure that was provided to them. The systemic issue that I'm talking about is twofold. The first, that the medical industry doesn't have money where it needs to be, with the infrastructure of government hospitals and services available to a public that is not necessarily rich. And two is security for all medical professionals and the institutions that they work in. I've spoken about this before in a book review that I did about the Gorakhpur hospital tragedy. There wasn't enough money at one government hospital to supply enough oxygen to keep 70 children alive at the height of an encephalitis outbreak. The money existed, but not with the hospital services. The outbreak wasn't even unprecedented. It was something that occurred during the same months almost every year. And yet, infrastructure was not developed enough to counter a tragedy that could be anticipated. Now, I refer to this as a systemic issue because tragedies like these create anger, fear, frustration, and distrust from the non medical community towards the faces of the medical community, doctors and nurses. People become violent in grief and they take it out on the people that they hold responsible, which is the people they see, like the doctors in charge. Now, that anger keeps coming in waves as people suffer loss and tragedy, and it is so commonplace right now that medical professionals need to be protected from it. There needs to be better security for our doctors and nurses. There needs to be monitoring, not just to prevent malpractice, but to hold people accountable when they feel entitled to attack these professionals. We have seen videos on the internet where doctors have been attacked, pelted with stones, assaulted, just because the aggrieved party has suffered a loss. But there is no one to protect these doctors, except for each other. The only thing they can hope to do is defend themselves. Now, this speaks to a larger issue, but coming back to safety in the workplace, hospitals need better surveillance. They need guards and watchmen that monitor everyone that's coming in and out. We have corporate offices where people can't even enter without their IDs and access cards. And I don't expect something exactly the same from hospitals where there are thousands of patients and people going in and out daily. But there needs to be oversight to protect our doctors from anybody that could pose a threat to them. If there were CCTV cameras in every nook and cranny of the RG Kar hospital, the perpetrator that day might have been dissuaded from doing what they did. If there were security guards at night roaming the hospital, somebody could have noticed what was happening and protected this young doctor. But nobody seemed to care. Even the Posh Act couldn't have really done much in this situation. And it's not an isolated incident. It has happened to women everywhere. No place is safe for them. But to think that the one other place you spend most of your time at, your workplace, is just as unsafe as the streets at midnight is a tragedy unto itself. The truth is, India is nowhere near being safe for women. And instead of trying to solve the problem, we have resorted to talking about the safety precautions that a woman needs to take to stay alive. But how can you ask a female doctor to do all those things at a place where they're supposed to be safe? A female doctor now should not have to think so much before taking up a night shift at the hospital to help the patients that she's treating. She shouldn't have to worry about her safety in the hospital, which is her second home. But this incident has probably done enough damage to that. Women aren't safe, the society doesn't care about them, and we as the audience only watch. There was news that I didn't go into too much detail about, that there were attempts to cover up the doctor's cause of death, calling it a suicide. There was just too much evidence in this case to cover it up, I guess. But it's just a peek into the hospital administration and how it views its doctors as dispensable, and they're desperate to cover their own ass. The people are violent towards these doctors. The administration cares more about saving its image than protecting its employees. So how can you expect a doctor to work with care and confidence each day when they get nothing in return? There need to be better security measures. There needs to be oversight to protect our doctors and our women from monsters like these. But it will take a long time because we simply do not identify with these medical professionals and hence don't find it imperative. As a woman, the news of this crime was incredibly tragic, but not surprising. What a sad, sad world we live in, where the news of a rape and homicide barely makes a difference to us in terms of shock. I don't even know what to say in this situation. The monster was a monster and probably would always have been. But society should have done a better job protecting this young doctor. Her future was snatched from her, and yet the institution and the society that must protect her simply stands idle or tries to cover things up. A woman, especially a doctor, should not have to look behind her back at every step in her own damn hospital. It is 78 years now since India has been an independent country, but the women of this country are still not free. We may have the right to vote, to own property, but in some ways, we still don't have the right to live. The right to live might seem very basic at first, but it represents the right to live freely, without oppression, without fear, and without judgment of the way we live our life. And yet, at every step of the way, women have had to pave their way in blood, sweat, and tears to attain this right and to keep it. and we still have just barely scratched the surface. Movements like Me Too, acts like Posh, have tried to protect our women from crimes that keep happening to us all the time. But we truly wouldn't be safe as a gender, as a community, till even random acts of violence like these are truly something of the past, part of a barbaric society that we aren't part of anymore. Protect our women, protect our doctors, protect the institutions that they work in, and make them feel safe to be in the spaces that they are in. A female doctor was unheard of for a very long time. Women were not considered capable of jobs that required strength, grit, and intelligence, and we have proven them wrong every step of the way. Now that we are here at this stage of society's liberation, create an environment that doesn't make our female doctors feel like they may have to still live in fear of what may happen to them in the pursuit of their ambition and their purpose towards society.